Welcome to Safari Live. This is the Sunset Safari. My name is Brent Smith. We have the very strange Andrew Francis on camera, and on the other vehicle is James Henry and Tibbs, and in front of the control we have Nicky and Lou. It is a scorching day out here in the low part of South Africa. I have heard a rumor that my favorite animal, the wild dog, might be in this vicinity, so I'm checking our eastern boundary. If there's even a sniff of a hope that we can see some wild dogs, I will be in the area. And it is 35 degrees centigrade, 104 Fahrenheit. So steamy. Hopefully we'll find some eddies moving between the water points. And I know Tingana's tracks are still in the area to the south and west, and we'll definitely be following up there when it's a bit cooler. You can see we are marching down the northern boundary, looking for tracks. Unfortunately, none so far. And if you are wondering about what we are going to do, or anything you might have pondered about this wonderful African bush veld that we call home, send us a question on questions at WildEarthTV if you're into email, and if you're a bit more technologically advanced, use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Good afternoon to Kyla, who's technologically advanced and using Twitter. Kyla would like to know if Quarantine was around. Did we find him on the Sunrise Safari? Alas, dear Kyla, he ventured east across our boundary, so he's not around. Hopefully he'll be back for a visit in the not too distant future. But Tingana's tracks did cross into our area, and we tracked them for about 7 kilometers today, and we lost them around Treehouse Waterhole, so I'm hoping he's still in that area. I'm going to continue to check the northern boundary for the slightest chance of the African wild dog or painted wolf. And while we do that, let us go to the colourful James Henry so he can bid you a good afternoon.
Far more colourful than I, everybody, is the Djuma, which unfortunately has just made an impossible flight out of the view of Tibbs, who's on camera today. Hello, Tibbs. Tibbs, give us a thumb. Show us who you are. There we go. There's Tibbs' thumb. So there's a Djuma flying just above us here, and I unfortunately threw Tibbs under the bus there. It was an almost impossible shot to get. My name is James Henry, and we are driving along here in the blinding heat of the low-veld midsummer. It is a very pleasant afternoon, mainly because there is a cloud covering the sky, which has been scorching the earth all day long. And we are heading towards Treehouse Dam, and I'm going there mainly because I know there's some mud there, and I'm hoping that the mud is going to contain a number of fascinating animals, perhaps also some weaver birds, which are around Treehouse Dam, some of my favorite birds. We had a competition, Brent and I did today, about the trying to find the most colourful bird that there was. Brent unfortunately won, which basically ruined my day. Anyway, I'm sort of over it today, almost. And what I think that the competition this afternoon will be is to try and find the heaviest bird. There can be no dispute about that, and we can't make any subjective decisions about whether or not it's colourful or not colourful. So let's go with the heaviest bird this afternoon. On we go. The Djuma has gone. There is the cloud that is covering the sun. Long may it last. It's about 47 degrees Celsius here, 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly the same as the temperature in the middle of a volcano. I believe just before you went live, you saw people working on the pan that used to be called Peter's Pan, and Sharon, you're wondering where on earth Peter is. is the so-named hippo from the pan there? I don't know, Sharon. I'm hoping that he's possibly found some larger water. I know that they are doing some hippo capture at Buffels Hook. I'm not sure where those hippo are going. They're probably being relocated to a sort of more watery reserve. And maybe Peter's gone up there because there are fewer hippo up there. There's a big dam there that perhaps he's gone to. Otherwise, we did see a lone bull hippo today that could have been Peter in a pan on the Arathusa airstrip. So that might be him. So anyone, difficult to say, very difficult to tell hippo apart from the scarring that they have. Thank you, Sharon, and welcome. And Heidi, you think Peter might be doing his Christmas shopping? Well, if he is, I hope he's buying me something. Tebs, what do you want from Christmas from Peter? A big pond. Right. Diane, very good question from you. What is on the hood? Diane, there are two things that you need to know about. The first is that ball full of GoPro cameras, and that is our virtual reality rig, and we are doing various experimental shoots with it. We're trying to get an idea. I don't know if you've ever used a virtual reality set of glasses before, but basically it's a 360-degree view of the bush. That's some very clever computer program, and indeed a very clever Russian that works with us, puts together, stitches it together, and it basically gives you the experience of a 360-degree view. So if you wear the glasses or the special goggles, you can basically look around you in the same way that I'm doing now. So if you were watching it, for example, and you were watching me, and I said, point over there, you could turn your head and you'd look at exactly what I was looking at. It's the most incredible technology. It's still pretty much, I wouldn't say experimental, but it's certainly at the early stages, and so we're doing various experiments with it. And then this thing here, which looks like a box with a furry thing attached to the front of it, is a microphone, and that's so that we can record the sound nicely as well. And that's what's going on there. We're not recording anything at the moment. We're only going to do we've got some special sightings or very beautiful views, and we will record it with the virtual reality rig. So Wendy, for the next probably 4 or 5 weeks, is going to have this set up. Wendy is the vehicle I'm on, for those of you who are new viewers. Odd name for Land Rover or Drover, I know, but that's just the way it is. We're driving along here, and it is so beastly hot. Smart Redhead, another spectacular Twitter handle. You want to know how many gallons of sunscreen we go through every day. Tebs, I know you go through a few. 4 or 5 gallons, perhaps. Now, I don't use that much. Normally, we'll put a little bit on before we drive now, and then if we do any exercise in the middle of the day, we'll put on some sunscreen. But you know, the sun now, it's 4 o'clock, and it's sort of shifted to an angle that it doesn't burn too much now. So in all seriousness, it's not an enormous amount. It's mainly because we're not out in the heat of the day. We're back home by 8 o'clock in the morning while it's hot, while it's coolish. And then we kind of take shelter under the shade, just like the animals out here do. The Twitter handle competition was won hands down today by somebody whose Twitter handle, I believe, is James Hendry Fan. Now, that, of course, is the ultimate Twitter handle in the world. So all the other Twitter handles will now have to compete for second place. Smart Redhead, you come close. What did we have? The other classic today out of Florida was Bubba Rednecks. That was another classic. nearly 45 degrees centigrade, everybody. And Donna, your comment of holy hotcakes, Batman, it's warm over there. I'm going to use that, I think. It's not quite as hot as 45 degrees. It is apparently about 35 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit is about 98, if I'm not mistaken. So it's still pretty warm. I think the lack of rain is making it that much warmer. And you know, every afternoon these clouds build a little bit and then they just dissipate, and it's starting to feel a bit droughish. And where's that tree? I'm just going to reverse quickly. I drove past this tree this morning and it was looking particularly miserable about life, and it still is. And I think that's because the water table is dropping slowly. I mean, look at this sad sack of a tree. This is a variable bush willow, and it is very clearly unhappy. You can see that its leaves are wilting and drooping more so than any of the others, and maybe it's just decided life is too much under the regime of heat and sun and no water that's going on here. Anyway, we shall watch the progress of this rather magnificent variable bush willow over the next little while, and hopefully it will recover. On we go. Treehouse waterhole, where with any luck there will be a great plethora of animals knocking about the mud. Chatting about gallons of sunscreen just now, and Lynn, you want to know how many gallons of gas we go through? Well, there are two interesting things to that question. The first is that we actually don't drive that far, and unless we are chasing wild dogs for miles and miles, we drive very slowly, and so we probably put in 20 litres every 2 days or so. 20 litres is 4 gallons every 2 days, so 20 litres every 2 or 3 days. So that's not too much. These are pretty thirsty cars, but that's not too much at all. What do I spy in front of us there? The other interesting thing about that, Lynn, of course, is that we don't talk about gas here. We talk about petrol. And then this morning we opened up at the hyena den, and there was a little 2-week-old cub, and looked very nervous for some reason, and she didn't want to come out, and her mother was there, and so smart redhead, you want to know how the cubs are doing. I think they're doing okay. I'm hoping to go back there a little bit later this afternoon. I'm sure one of Brent or I will go back, and we'll see what's going on there. In the meantime, let's go and catch up with Brent and see what he's doing. I will see you at Treehouse Dam just now.
So alas, no tracks on the boundary, which means there must be a way to the north. And because it's so hot and dry, it's not going to land. The butterfly, one we have seen, but is highly mobile in a southeasterly direction. Unfortunately, it has escaped. Was the joker. And who can remind me, how many butterfly species are we on now? I think we should be over 10. Has anyone been keeping a list? If you have, remind me how many butterfly species we're on, and you can send that through to questions@WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Have a diligent list keeper in Michigan whose name is Mary. A warm welcome, Mary. Mary said at the end of the sunrise safari, for the last few seconds, we managed to find an incredibly beautiful bird, and that she's wondering what it is, so she can add it to her list. Mary, it is called a purple roller. Another name for it is a rufous crowned roller. And they are extremely beautiful, related to the lilac-breasted in Europeans. They're one of our resident roller species, so they're here all year round, like the lilac-breasted. And hopefully, there's a pair that we've seen on quarantine quite a lot. Hopefully we can add another roller to your list. I'm really hoping, although it's unlikely up here in the northern Sabi Sands, without any major rivers around, to see a broad-billed roller, and that will take all the rollers in the area that we get, or all the rollers we get in this area, to complete our Wild Earth roller list, since I've been here at least. From the land or the town of some very great musicians, Memphis in Tennessee, and it's from Kathy Ward. And she said she heard I grew up on a game reserve. How old was I when I guided my first safari? Well, legally speaking, Kathy, I was 18, but there may have been one or early explorers, and most early explorers, especially in southern Africa, came to their demise not at the hands of marauding elephants and man-eating lions or savage local tribes, but at the hand of lack of water. And we'll discuss some of them as we go through this sunset safari. Oh no, they've flown away, but they were little scimitar-bulls. But James Henry has got a very large beastie to show you. So we'll chat about the explorers a little later.
Right, there is an elephant, if you can believe it, disappearing through the bush there, and it never ceases to amaze me how such an enormous animal is able to hide with such ease and move with such incredible silence. Right, two young bulls. There's one also off to our left-hand side over there. You might just be able to see him walking through the bush, and they were at Treehouse Dam, covering themselves in a bit of mud, and they're now moving off through the woodland, having a bit of a graze. So we'll try and keep up with them. They are young bulls, so they do seem to be a little bit nervous of the vehicle. That's why I'm keeping my distance for now, try and gain a bit of trust, and then with any luck they will just get on with life and ignore us completely. Here you can see young bulls, probably, I'd say only about 18 years old, maybe 20, but probably not quite yet. Right, let's move forward. Kind of driving, he's walking up that way, and this chap is walking straight in front of us. Now, the big thing when you're approaching an animal and you're trying to habituate them to a vehicle is to not approach them in a threatening manner. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't just drive at them at great speed. It means that the angle at which you approach them is extremely important. The vehicle itself, I think, must look like a living thing. It moves. It's got these two great big eyes in the front, which are the headlights. And I don't think they even, well, I've no doubt they can see us on the back of the vehicle. I don't think they pay great attention to us when we're sitting on the car. And so the big thing with being on the vehicle is to approach at a sort of oblique angle, so sideways, so they never feel like you're actually driving straight at them. And that's if you're trying to habituate an animal. The one in front of us definitely not very comfortable with us. So we'll just very gently move along through the woodland like this. Thankfully it's not very thick, so we don't have to make a big noise. And the other one's coming through here on our left-hand side. And these are young bulls, so they're not fully confident yet, you know. They're just they're still a little finding their feet. They don't have the security of the herd anymore. And so they'll be a little bit nervous of quite a few things as they find their way as adult bull elephants. This one here on our left-hand side seems to be relaxing quite nicely. So I'll stop here. We'll watch him move past. To the right, Ted. Look at him. Isn't he great? Now the best thing is if they actually approach us rather than us approach them. That's the best thing about it. And by approach, I don't mean run at a great speed making a noise. I mean come to actually investigate us. That's my favorite. Now watch his behavior quite carefully. You'll see he'll twitch, he'll turn his trunk towards us to smell, and he'll keep an eye out. He'll hide behind a bush just to have a quick look. Now watch as he walks away. He's now watching us. And you'll see when he turns, if he turns to walk straight, he'll look over both shoulders at us. There we go. Now he feels like he's at a safe enough distance so he can turn and have a proper look. All the time the trunk twitched towards us to try and smell. What do we want? Who are we? Do we pose a threat? Isn't that interesting? Right, let's carry on. Let's see if we can get another nice view like that. Now, we were chatting a little bit earlier about Wendy, this vehicle, and Renostas on Twitter. You want to know what happened to the third vehicle called Rusty. Rusty went through a very traumatic stage. She began life at Wild Earth with much fanfare. She looked wonderful, but she was a bit like a sort of an old human being who's had an enormous amount of plastic surgery. Looks okay from far, but once you get under the hood and under the skin, there's a deeply aging and rusty foulness, and that is basically what Rusty is. Rusty is a great foulness on the land, and we eventually, after great expense, managed to make her run, and so she is running at the moment, but we're not using her because she's mainly the drone vehicle. She's about as reliable. Here we go. Hello, fella. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? Smart redhead, look quickly there. You want to know where the entrance to the ear is? That's it there. Tebs is right on the ear there. It's not behind the flap, it's in front. It's exactly like a human ear. So it's in front. Remember, if it was behind, it would be a fairly pointless appendage because, well, they wouldn't get much sound in from those flaps. So I'll try and get another look, but if you look carefully at the ear, you can see the opening very clearly. Alrighty. That, of course, the shot that Chet has there is a quintessential African shot of the elephant's bottom disappearing. Probably the best looking bottom out here, the elephants. Gently along here. If you were to head in a dead straight line from here, you would eventually reach the Djuma Dam, and I wonder if they're not going to perhaps have a drink there. Pat in Florida. You say you can't imagine a better way to spend a Saturday morning than with bacon, eggs, tea and Safari Live. I'm very pleased, Pat. I would change one thing about that. I would probably have an enormous pot of coffee instead of the tea, but that's wonderful. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad, that your breakfast is providing you with such pleasure. It's my favorite meal of the day. Smart redhead, have a look now at the ears. Ted gets in there. I mean, it is hidden by the trees, but there you can see that dark shadow on the front of the ear. There you can see it. That's the entrance to the ear right there. Now everybody, if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is switch on this camera. I'm going to try and switch on this camera. It's a great freezing. Oh dear. Anyway, you enjoy. He's eating. Oh, there we go. Carla, you want to know if they get ear mites. Carla, I don't think they get ear mites. It's possible. I'm sure that there are any number of things that probably do try and get at their ears, but I'm not sure that ear mites is one of those things. Right, let's move on a bit. Rough in here now, so we're going to move a bit more gently through here. I don't, like I say, want to break the trust that we managed to build. Alright, let's head across to Brent. He's got a skull. Sounds a bit ominous, really. He'll tell you about how it became a skull as opposed to attached to the original animal it was on. See you later.
So, Andrew and I were reminiscing as we meandered down Drakensberg Road. We decided to visit what was left of the buffalo we managed to catch being eaten by lions alive on camera. And as I said, even though he's dead, there's still lots of stuff eating him. There are hundreds of little carrion beetles that are still eating the tiny bits of sinew that are left. And the first horn moths have made a dent in the top of the skull. Oops, it's still quite heavy. As you can see there, they've eaten through the keratin. Same family as fish moths that eat clothes. And there we go. So still a little bit smelly, not too bad though. Now I'm going to wipe my hands all over Andrew because he gets grossed out easily. But while we do that, let's go back to James and the Ellies.
That was a very quick skull discussion. The elephants are just moving past the old hyena den here, and I say old, I mean it's relatively recently used. Let's just watch your head here. Watch your head here, everybody. Tibbs will move it over your head. There we go. Don't spill your tea there in Florida. Here's the old hyena den over there. No hyenas there now. But you can see the termite mound. And the elephants have already, you see the tree on the right-hand side of your picture there, the elephants have pushed that over. That used to shade the home of the hyenas, no longer. And there go our two friends down the road in front of us. on from the ears, or a little bit forward from the ears, Billy in Texas, you want to know about that fluid that seems to come out of just in front of the ears. They're now chasing each other. The one behind is giving the one in front a bit of a hard time. Billy, that is a secretion from the temporal gland. It's a gland basically on the temple here, and it leaks whenever they're stressed. So if they're stressed about heat, if they're being chased around by bulls, if they're thirsty, then that gland will start to stream. Also, these bulls, when they go into must, it will also start to stream. And a must is a time of elephants breeding. It's when they're ready to kind of start breeding, and they feel very edgy and agitated, and that's what that gland is for. Right, everyone, I think we're going to leave these two. I don't think they're very comfortable with the vehicle, and they're going into some pretty thick stuff now. I'm just going to stop here, and we're going to get a last view of them. They're being particularly, yes, unobliging. Although one is about to pop out on the road. Let's just roll forward slowly. There we go. I see you. And here comes the next one. One slightly younger than the other. I think the one in front is probably about 2 or 3 years older than the one behind. And it's not unusual for you to see elephants of this age with the herd, and so their slight nervousness is not unusual. I think they're just of that age. Right, we're going to head down here. We're going to send you back to Brent for a bit of an update, and I'll keep you posted on anything else that we find. See you later.
So we're back in the beastly hot South African lowveld today, and in an area that seems to be devoid of anything with a heartbeat. That's why I had to show you a skull, and hopefully we will find something that is not retired permanently. It's even a bit hot for the butterflies, so hopefully as the temperature cools a little bit, some of the more interesting bugs will come out, some butterflies. I've found a very dangerous beast. If you eat it, which I'm not afraid to do, so it's completely harmless. Very pretty though. Okay, hopefully he doesn't jump too quickly. Let him calm down. Whoops! Don't jump, don't jump. It's called an elegant locust. So very, very pretty. Lots of different colors. Let's grab my earpiece. And quite noxious. So it eats Wolfaria plants and other plants that have hydrogen cyanides. Oh, haha, he missed. That is another one of his defense mechanisms. But very few things can eat this. He is very, very noxious. And incredible colors, and that bright coloration he's got on there is called aposematic coloring, and that's to warn any bird that might want to eat him that he tastes, or mammal for that matter, that he tastes absolutely vile. So very, very pretty. One of my favorite of the locust and grasshopper family. But let's put him back in the bush. We've had a nice good look at him, and he's behaved. I was very, very worried he was going to jump at great speed away from us. Okay. Oh, he's actually, the tree we found him on, quite interestingly, is a senna, which also has some poisons in it. And I'll have a look in the book now, but this could also be a host plant. Now he doesn't want to leave me. After not wanting to come to me. Come on, dude. No. I have a new friend. You can see how strong they are. There we go, he jumped. There we go. Really, really beautiful grasshopper. And just as I said, oh, giraffe. Something with a mammalian heartbeat. It's like a bull giraffe. Hello, big boy. So the reason I can see from a distance that it's a male, quite a bit bigger than the females, also a very distinctly shaped head. And you see there's quite a large protrusion on the forehead, and that's a buildup of scar tissue from fighting. Also the ossicones, which is another name for a giraffe's horns, don't have any hair tufts on the top, and that's also from fighting. He has a scratchy face though, or an itchy face, which he is using that red bush willow. Or it's actually an ear. He's probably trying to get some ticks out from behind his ear. See how he's got that branch right behind his ear, and he's trying to remove. Oh, there we go. That is the wonderful thing about this little camera, is that super zoom, and we can also see it looks like a piece of his ear is missing, and that is more than likely. It almost looks like a bite, but that would be unusual. It's more than likely from insects that have been chewing on it. Oh, that looks quite good. Maybe I should get a bush willow stick to scratch behind my ears. So, of course, not having opposable thumbs and hands, a lot of animals have to utilize whatever they can to scratch. An incredibly massive beast. And I wonder if anyone out there could tell me how heavy a giraffe is. So if you know how heavy a giraffe is, you can send your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So, on that elegant locust we just saw, there's a question from Shell and Andreen. Andreen was wondering the name, and the name is an elegant locust. And Shell was wondering, is a locust a grasshopper? Well, that is quite an interesting question. They all have a slightly different life cycle. Oh, he's got some ox peckers on him as well. So they have a slightly different lifestyle. There he is. Sorry, and I got the name wrong. Apparently it's sometimes called an elegant grasshopper as well as a locust. And even though it's called a grasshopper in this book, it is a locust. So locusts skip a phase in the sort of life cycle, and they have a nymph stage that crystallizates through to an adult stage. So they've got one less stage in their life cycle than the grasshoppers. And now he's moved on from a red bush willow to a large fruited bush willow. Male giraffes can get to about 3.5 meters, with the record being just under 4, which is is incredible. I would say this guy's a solid 3.2 at least. Have an incredibly long tongue that is basically feels like a really tough old piece of leather, and they are able to chew and through thorns and get spiked and completely ignore all the spiky and hooked thorns in the bush. So incredible adaptation. And he is moving off into Torchwood, so across our eastern boundary. We'll stay with him as long as we can. See why they got the name giraffe from the Arabic zarafa, the one who walks swiftly, and they have to reverse much faster to keep up with them. Oh, he's still going. Speedy Gonzalez, yeah. So we've had a few guesses at a giraffe's weight. Sharon says 1 ton, which is 1,000 kilograms. Paul says 1,000 pounds, which is 450 kilograms. This is a male, so the average weights are between 1,200 kilograms and 1,400 kilograms, so Sharon nice and close, but the largest recorded male is around 1,900 kilograms, nearly 2 tons. Oh, he's found a good spot to scratch his face. There we go, I'm trying to get behind the ear again. Imagine how frustrating it must be to not be able to pick those itchy things off you. So look at them scratching, and while we're this close up there, we've got a question from AJ, who's 6 years old in Ohio, and I'm sure AJ just heard me talk about the giraffe and thorns. And he's wondering, don't they ever poke their eye out? Now, AJ, you see those lovely long eyelashes that most girls would be jealous of on this male giraffe. Those are there to protect. So the eyelashes will feel or they'll touch a thorn, and they'll know when to close their eyes. Because remember, their skin is much thicker and stronger than ours. See, he's listening to your question, AJ. Enough of a scratch, time to move on. So Smiles says it looks like the giraffe's growing 2 extra ossicones behind the regular pair. Smiles, that looks just like scar tissue build up to me from fighting, same as what is in the front. And he is going to disappear into some thickets, and we're not going to harass him further. Let us see what else is out there in this wildlife wonderland. Ooh, we've got a really, really interesting bird coming up here. Okay, Andrew, you got what I'm looking at? Okay, so if we take the far left-hand branch, follow my finger actually. Okay, there. Oh no, this is difficult. There somewhere. There's two birds. Okay, I'll go in across to the right. Slowly. There we go. Well done, Andrew. A very cool bird species. It is a great spotted cuckoo. And it is one of the bigger cuckoo species we get here. And they are brood parasites. I wonder if anyone knows what a brood parasite is. If you do, send your answers through to questions@WildEarth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. You can see how that cuckoo is opening its wings slightly. It's just letting that breeze get under. Oh, off he goes. That is another one. There are two in the tree, and it was opening its wings to cool down, doing it again there. So these guys moving in pairs like this are on the hunt and not for food. So it's got something to do with being a brood parasite. That's not giving us the best view. So we're going to leave that and let you ponder what is a brooded parasite. And don't cheat by asking James. And we're going to go see what James has got. He's got some vampiric birds.
Right, everybody, there are two remarkable things about this buffalo. Firstly, he has an enormous wound that the oxpeckers, you can see, beautiful. He's actually been so confiding. He's only about 3 feet from the front of the vehicle. He's got an enormous wound on his shoulder that those oxpeckers are eating out of. I don't know well, two of them were. Well, one of them, they've flown off to the other buffalo now. The other completely remarkable thing about this buffalo is the size of the scrotum that he has hanging between his legs there, and that is not simply a size of it being a buffalo scrotum. You can see there's actually a swelling on it, and I think he's been bitten, or there's definitely a kind of growth in there as well, and so I can't imagine he's particularly comfortable. You can see how close he is now. He's only about 4 feet from the front of the vehicle, and there you could probably see it now. We'll just keep watching as he goes past. You can see a little bit of a swelling there, and he's not a very big bull. It's quite interesting. He's substantially shorter. We've watched him walk. He's in a sort of group of three here. There's one more in front there, and there's another one over sort of that way. And this guy is shorter than both of those bulls, but he's got a much larger package than any of them, and that's actually quite relevant. It's not a simply mild observation. Apparently, the testicle size does make a difference to how successful they are as breeders, and you can tell apparently by testicle size with mammals as to their social structure and how the mating happens. So much like with chimpanzees, which are enormous in that department, there is kind of confused paternity. So what happens is that if a female comes into estrus in a herd, the bulls will fight with each other for mating opportunities, but they don't dominate each other completely. And so you'll find that probably multiple bulls will mate with estrus females, and the larger, of course, your package is, the more likely it is then that you or your progeny will be the ones that impregnate the female. So I think that's quite an interesting thing, and it tells a lot about the social structure of these animals. And the other great example of that would be something like a gorilla. Manipulate, or he will have the only mating opportunities within a group, and so he doesn't need to expend energy having enormous testicles, unlike the buffalo or unlike the chimpanzees. So it's quite an interesting thing, that, because I'm sure you must see things like that hanging below a buffalo and think, what for? Ooh, here we go. buffalo coming up here. Oh, sorry, Maggie. Yes, I forgot to answer your question this morning, Maggie. I'm very sorry about that. I know I did begin it and then we got sidetracked. And your question was, do any of the horned animals that fight get stuck together? Maggie, they do. There's only one that I really know of, and that is the kudu. Kudu fairly regularly, because of their spiraled horns, do get their horns locked together. And they actually then will both die if they can't unhook them. And it's not entirely uncommon for kudu to be found deceased. Excuse me here, I'm just trying to get out of your way. It's not entirely unusual to find kudu deceased together with their horns interlocked. So that absolutely does happen, Maggie, but not with buffalo. We watched some buffalo having a fight today, but you can see how their horns are, well, I mean, they're just not going to get intertwined. They're not designed that way. Nice little herd of buffalo bulls meandering down through the grassland. They would have been spending the day in the water, in the mud. You can see some of them are very muddy indeed, and the rest would have been in the shade. And now they're kind of, as the day starts to cool, and I use the term cool in its loosest possible terms, it's certainly not cooling a lot, but as it cools a bit, they're moving off to graze now. And Larry, that wound, I'm going to try and get you another view of that wound. Larry, you say there's a bad wound. It is a bad wound, and it's, I mean, those oxpeckers, which are known as tick-eating birds, will keep a wound like that open. And they'll keep it open because it supplies them with blood. Oxpeckers don't eat ticks because they like ticks, they eat ticks because they like blood. And ticks, of course, are blood suckers, so that's why the oxpeckers eat them. So while the relationship that they have with buffalo is largely symbiotic, when they have a wound like this one has, and you can see there are 4 oxpeckers now fighting over being able to eat from the wound, when they have a wound like that, the oxpeckers can be a bit of a hindrance. Sorry, I'm just going to get into a decent position. Sorry, Tibbs, let me go around the bush here. Sorry, man. It's a very unpleasant sound. There we go. Gracie, hello and welcome again, of course. You want to know, I'm just going to get your question again, sorry, I don't think I heard it correctly. Look at them eating away there at that. Oh, I see, Gracie, you want to know if that sack hanging between the legs is going to fall off because it's been bitten and it's swollen. No, Gracie, I don't think it's going to fall off, but it might cause an infection in the rest of the buffalo, and well, that could make the buffalo very sick. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. As will this big injury on his shoulder, Grace. If you look at it now, you can see it's very messy. And while I suppose the oxpeckers do help a little bit in that they keep it clean, but eventually it's going to be a bit of a problem. It does look like it's healing from the inside, though. If you look in the middle of that thing, you can see it kind of solidifying in the middle of the wound, and I think it will eventually heal. I'm not actually sure for definite whether oxpeckers do make wounds like this worse, or if the cleaning effect that they have on them actually helps. Isn't it a wonderful shot of those oxpeckers with their beaks open like that? That's an indication of how hot it is. They're doing what we call goulard flutter. They're floating their throats up and down, and it's just like panting. green grass. We might get another view there of the injury. Quite astonishingly, most of that is entirely natural. There, you can see it there. You can see he's definitely got a growth in there somewhere. I don't think we want to spend too much time on that view. That's quite enough testicle for the afternoon, I feel. And, well, I mean, the other interesting thing is that you will hear people tell you that these bulls don't live together or don't live in the herd because basically they are too old and decrepit to fight for mating opportunities. And I'm becoming less and less a fan of that particular school of thought. And I think that these bulls actually just couldn't be bothered. So some of them are really in very, very good condition. The one that we've been looking, he's not in such great condition, but in terms of you pan slightly to the left to that one over there, that one there, I think, is in excellent condition. You can see he's fat, he looks big and strong, there are no bones showing, he looks very muscly, and I think that you'll find that if a herd of buffalo was to come through here, he would definitely tag on for a while, see if he could find some mating opportunities, and then probably drop off the herd when it moved off too far away. Well, he's a magnificent fellow. Sorry, I think I did lose the final control briefly. I've got them back now. Oh, now we had some little ones earlier, or some youngsters who weren't very happy to see us. Hopefully Brent's example is going to be more happy to see him. We will see you in just a little while.
So we found an elephant bull, and he's moving through the bush. We're going to try to keep up with him now. Young Ellie bull, from early 20s. Is that Andrew? Hello, little man. Well, we call him little, but he probably still weighs a couple of tons. Probably a good 3 or 4 tons already. And of course he decides to go directly behind us. Just trying to see if he's going to walk around us. He might. Here we go. Keeping Andrew energetic on the camera. Andrew, of course, is upset with him because he's now on the wrong side of the line. I'm just going to wait to see where he goes before I move again. Okay, let's try and get up ahead of him. He seems to be on a bit of a mission. Let's try. Ahead. So, young bull, semi-nomadic at this stage of his life. Sometimes hangs on the edges or the peripheries of breeding herds. But can be a little bit too boisterous, and the females quite often chase them away. Try to get ahead of him now. at this. Oh, branch in my face. Oh, excuse me. So, oh, look at this wonderful young Ellie. Jarrett, who's watching on YouTube and is a new viewer, would like to know where specifically in Africa this is being filmed. Jarrett, it is being filmed live, so you're seeing this at the exact same time as me, in the Sabi Sands Private Game Reserve on the border of the Kruger National Park in South Africa, and we have an elephant bull less than 4 foot from the front of our vehicle and walking past us. Here he is, and he's eating lots of little grass and herbs as he moves along. Hey, look at him plucking that grass as he goes. So Jared, and in more particularly, we are at the moment on Djuma Private Game Reserve. We operate on Djuma and Arathusa Private Game Reserves in the northern Sabi Sands. These reserves are unfenced to Kruger, and we are in an area that is about 8.5 million acres of unfenced African wilderness where the animals can roam where they choose. Andrew, can I go back there? So of course James Henry has to one-up me, so from my 1 Ellie to 6.
Hello everybody, we've just come to Peter's pan where Peter is absent, and there are some elephants in front of us, and I'm just trying to try and drive us into a position without creating major consternation. They're just heading beautifully along this little drainage line here. They drink very fast, elephants. Unless they're playing in the mud, they do tend to drink very quickly. Also here, a whole herd of impalas. There's some kudus to the left of that, and a whole lot of nyalas too. So a great plethora of antelope. We'll come back to look at them, and we'll try and head the elephants off now. There are the 3 magnificent kudu bulls. Let's just stop here a second, Tibbs. Look at them. 5 stunning kudu bull, and you always, a lot of people get confused between nyala and kudu. There you see them. The kudu, at least nyala, much smaller. Behind there, different color, but same family, same genus. That's the nyala there. Nyala bull, beautiful, my favorite antelope. And there are the kudu. Possibly the most real antelope that we have here. Alrighty, let's just quickly hurry up before those elephants disappear into some thick bush. Two Egyptian geese running off in front of the car. Dennis the Zoomy, there are the elephants in front of us. We'll just try and sort of keep up with them. They are moving off. I'm not sure where they're going. Dennis, you were watching the workers here fixing up the pan. It was leaking into the dam. That's why they were here. And you said they were buffalo, but they all walked off. And how long will it take before they come back? Less than a day, Dennis. I suspect they'll be back there tomorrow, and all will be well for them. Right, here we go. Beautiful shade here. Hello, Rain. You are 15 years old and you ask a very valid question, because you've obviously seen elephants before and you've been watching a big bull with Brent. And having seen those buffalo, you want to know if elephants have testicles. Rain? All mammals, male mammals, have testicles, but in the case of elephants, I'm just going to stop here, let them get used to us for a second. In the case of elephants and rhino rein, and in fact I think hippo are the same, they're internal, so you don't see them, they don't hang outside the body like they do in most animals. So that's why it's actually quite difficult to tell a male elephant from a female elephant, because the testicles are inside. Now this one looks like a young male. The best way to tell actually when they're that age is to look between their front legs. If they're female, their mammary glands or their teats will be slightly swollen, and if they're male they won't be. You can just see a little bit of them there. But otherwise it's very difficult to tell when they're not, when they're little. So if you look at this one here, I actually can't tell whether that's a male or a female. Little tusks, and the tusks are facing downwards, which usually indicates that that's a female. The male tusks often kind of stick out in front. But I certainly wouldn't put any money on that. And I'll try and show you, there's an obvious cow up front. We'll try and get a bit closer to her. Stop here because this chap's being so sweet. Riley, you're in Illinois, you're 13, welcome, lovely to have you on board with us. You say you saw a documentary where an elephant calf was attacked by lions, and it was they took most of its trunk, and you want to know what could it survive? How? Riley, they're amazingly adaptable elephants. There is a cow here that we see quite often. She's got sort of a third of her trunk missing. We're not sure how she lost it, and she survives. Yes, it's much more difficult for them to eat, like this one's eating here. You can see that as Tibbs is showing you. You can see how dexterous that trunk is. It is amazing how they use it to pick things up, tiny things. So if it was missing the trunk there, it wouldn't be able to pick grass as easily as this one is picking that grass, and so it would probably have to eat more leaves rather than picking grass like that. But if it could do that by just biting the trees, it would be able to use the top of its trunk to pull things off. And that cow that we see also uses her tusks in conjunction with her trunk quite a lot. Now there's a big elephant there, Ted, a big elephant in front of us. Let's try and see if we can tell whether that's a bull or a cow. I'll tell you what I think just now. What you need to look out for, males have got much more pronounced hollows to the back, so their spines aren't quite as straight. They've got rounder foreheads, their tusks stick out. And I think that one is unquestionably a bull. I don't know what he's doing with this group of females, but he has no swelling between his front legs. So he's an older bull than those two bulls we've seen, and maybe there's a female here who's coming into estrus, and maybe that's why he's hanging around here. So we were just chatting about that ridge and the different shapes that it is in males and females. And Julianne, you want to know if that is actually the spine or some sort of armor plating or protection for the spine. No, that is the spine that you can see there. That is the backbone. And I suspect it needs to be so high because it's got to support that weight. So it's at that angle, I think, to support the fairly vast hind quarters that an elephant has. They're very wrinkly skinned of our elephants, of course, and And Sharon, you want to know if we ironed the skin out of all the wrinkles, how much bigger do I think the elephant would be? Sharon, I have to tell you, I've got absolutely no idea. Shall we go with roughly twice the size? I think you'll find those wrinkles aren't so much wrinkles as they are sort of grooves. So, yes, it's a bit wrinkly there behind the elbow, you can see. But the rest of the wrinkles are more grooves than they are wrinkles, and that skin in many areas is actually quite tight. It's not like the sort of skin around the neck of a dog, which is very loose and floppy. Right, what I want to try and do is get a little bit in front of him. Relax, fella. Notice it, but there's a lodge behind us, and that's WildEarthTV Lodge at Djuma, and a couple of guests staying there now at the moment, but they're all out on game drive, which is lucky because otherwise we'd be staring straight into the front of their rooms. Now that's definitely a young bull, roughly the same age as the other two we saw earlier today, and like I say, I mean, they would quite often be with a herd. I think what they're probably going to do, and I'm guessing here, the easiest way to end up with egg on your face out here is to try and predict what animals are going to do. I think they're probably going to go around to the Gallagher waterhole there and have a bit of a drink. So let's see. Let's see how much egg I get on my face. Donna, you're absolutely correct. I think elephants have the most beautiful eyes. Aren't they incredible? You really look into them, they have kind of beautiful orangey amber color. We are going to have to move behind them though, I'm afraid, because there's no way through here without making an enormous noise. So let's just follow them gently towards the waterhole at a sedate elephantly pace. Look at this chap. Isn't he sweet? I think that's another male, another young bull. I think there's a cow in front there. I mean, I'll be astonished if these are all bulls. Check out this bird here. That is a fork-tailed drongo, everyone, and he's following the elephants because the elephants, of course, you've seen them picking out the sedges, that kind of green grassy material that will dislodge all sorts of invertebrates, and the drongo will swoop and eat those up. Lisa, you would like to know if I've ever been charged by an elephant before. I think this is quite a wide-ranging topic. The short answer is yes, I have. The long answer is it's not usual, and if you are able to read an animal's behavior and you listen to the signs that they give you, it's unlikely to happen. It can happen. Definitely can happen. These are young animals. They are far more likely to just move away if they get irritated, and that's sort of what they are doing. And that's why I'm staying behind them quite carefully. If this was an enormous elephant bull and he was in must and he turned around and he shook his head at us like that, I wouldn't be moving nearly as close to them, because he's saying to me, I feel uncomfortable, back off or you're going to be in trouble. Normally an elephant, a buffalo, a lion, a leopard, anything will warn you They'll show you if they're uncomfortable with their body language. And if you listen to that, you can avoid being charged. And that's why, I bang on about this just about every day. When people say, isn't this a dangerous place to work? It's potentially dangerous if you don't understand how the animals behave. Yes, of course, there can be accidents. There can be times when you don't read the animal's behavior correctly. But 9 times out of 10, if you're careful, you watch and you pay respect to the animals that you have here, the chances of being charged are very small indeed. So you can see the fence there, and that fence just surrounds the lodge. And what it does is it sort of keeps out the predators. It keeps out hippo mainly, which is the most important thing to keep out of your camp. They can be the most potentially dangerous at night time. And the elephants won't go in there. If they really wanted to, I've seen elephants break a fence like this it's electric. Elephants don't like the electricity, but if they wanted to get in there, I've seen elephants take sticks, huge logs, and basically beat a fence with the logs until it was broken and then walk into the camp. They're highly, highly intelligent. Nyala and Kudu pay absolutely no mind to that fence. I've seen them jump over it from a standing start. Straight over, and in they go. Karuna, the queen of Djuma, also spends quite a lot of time in there. I'm not sure how she gets over it. She may jump. She may just go under it, I suppose. And apparently Scott has actually seen Karuna go underneath the fence. Now, the more slowly we move behind them, the more they seem to be trusting us. And this is the great thing about spending a lot of time with animals. They will eventually start to trust. And the thing about the bush is that you really can't rush things. I know sometimes we rush around, we try and find things. It all just kind of happens, regardless of whether you're driving at 100 miles an hour or 10. These elephants will be very happy at the moment because they're eating grass. They would far rather be eating grass than tough leaves and branches, and that's why in summer they will feed almost exclusively on grass if there's sufficient rain. There hasn't been yet, and so they are in drainage line areas. They're definitely mixed feeding at the moment, eating grass now, but they'll have to eat leaves still, because there just simply hasn't been enough rain yet to cause a proper flush of new grass. You can hear, I'm sure, the flapping of the ears there. And that flapping is to try and keep them cool. It chases away the flies. And the big thing about that, Tibbs, if you can get in on the back side of the ear there. That back side of the ear, you can see it's got lots of veins in it. And those veins, when he flaps the ear there, the veins will become cool, and that blood flows straight into the brain and keeps the most important organ in a state of coolth. Now, Billy was asking, I think it was Billy just now from Texas, was asking about the streaming behind the temporal gland. And if we look to the left of that, Tebs, to the one in front of us, you can see that there is a slight streaming from the temporal gland there, Billy. There, just in front of the ear, you can see that moisture between the eye and the ear. And that is the gland that's streaming there. There's some form of stress. It might be anger. It might be some kind of emotion. It might be hunger. It might be thirst. It might be that that big bull has been bullying this one. It's difficult to say. It all is peace. Otherwise, it's a wonderful, wonderfully peaceful afternoon. Sneak very, very slowly forward. had an electric car that worked, we could just very easily ease our way in. Look at this chap here, look at his eyes. You can see that amazing colour. John, as we look at the eye there, you might just see that little tinge of orange if he opens it. John, you're in Norton Keynes. It sounds like a fascinating place to be. I don't know where that is in the world. It could be anywhere. No, it's in Staffordshire in England, apparently. Well, John, you want to know what happens to animals that are born blind out here? You'll find, John, that they unfortunately will die very quickly. So if an elephant was born blind, the herd would try and look after it for a little while, but eventually it would become too much of a hindrance and it would die. And the same goes for any other animal out here. The predators would eventually just pick it off. And in the case of an elephant, it just couldn't keep up with the herd. Beautiful, isn't it? I see that we're going to quickly look across to Brent. He's being attacked by a number of inchworms. I'm not sure what they're doing or what they want to eat of him. Let's head across there and find out our wait here with the elephants.
So I'm surviving my mauling by inchworm, actually laying little bits of silk. So it dropped out of a tree onto my hat. And it's amazing, you can even see those little yellow dots on its body. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? So it will belong to one of the moths. I've looked in my book, unfortunately I can't find it. But see, he's actually creating silk out of his mouth and pulling it out. He's looking maybe leap down off the dashboard, but I won't let him do that. I'll find a tree to put him on. You can see his eyes will be up on his head here. If you look very carefully, there we go. He's decided to change fingers. That's not good. Species and great spotted cuckoos. It's quite often virtual starlings is one of their preferred host species. So the starling will then raise the cuckoo as its own, and what happens quite often in these circumstances at that the baby cuckoo becomes much bigger than the adult feeding it. Almost all the cuckoos are brood parasites, and also the widow finches. Obviously that's quite a nice name for a brood parasite, widow finch. While we continue to see what we can find in the far western regions of Arathusa Private Game Reserve, James has two members of the Big Five in the same place to show.
Hello everybody, back again we are. We're just looking here at a herd of elephants. They've made it to the water, they've chased the buffalo off, and we're just enjoying them having a drink now. And while we were away, we were filming them with this virtual reality rig. And they're just very relaxed around us, which is wonderful.